Welcome back. Let's put all that new color knowledge to work. In this lesson, we'll cover how to select and mix colors and create color recipes, how to work with mixing and topping to get vibrant colors, and how to make tints for those pale colors that are hard to capture. It's hard to learn to cook without a cookbook. You need something that's a guide to get you going. But once you've been cooking for years, you never look at a cookbook again. Our color recipe book is going to be our color cookbook to get us going. In your materials, you'll find a template for the color recipe page. Print out a bunch of these. You're going to want them. Let me show you what this recipe book is all about. The dots are where we'll mix colors together. The lines are where we'll record what we did. I can't remember what I mixed 15 minutes ago, much less a month later when I'm trying to mix the same color. So we'll work like this. The first thing that goes down is a patch of the first color to lay down. We'll work in light layers with sharp pencils because we always work in light layers with sharp pencils. And as I add more color, I'll make a note of exactly what I did. I'm going to go back later and identify the colors by number so that I can pick up the same exact one again. I'm mentally keeping track of how many times I applied this color. So I'll keep track of that too. There we go. I'm pretty happy with that orange. So let me show you how I label this. My yellow color is number 107. My red is number 117. I used 2 layers of the yellow and 2 layers of the red. Voila, I have a recipe. I started with yellow, added red, went back to yellow, and ended with red. If I wanted to see what would happen if I ended with yellow, I could take half of that dot and add 1 more layer of yellow. Can you see how that changes the color? I'll make a note that I added 1 more dot just on that side. So every time I mix a color, I'm going to go through this process. Let me give you an idea of what that's going to look like. Here I've mixed some reds, yellows, and oranges. You can see the color number and what happened as I added colors. Here are some blues. I've mixed these just from the pencils on our color wheel. Some violets, again with the colors from our color wheel, and a bunch of greens. Let's mix a few of these together. Let's try to find an interesting red that we don't see here yet. I started with 219. It's another pencil from our pencil box that is kind of a medium red. So let's try something completely different. This time, I'll pick up number 125. This is the violet red from our pencil box. I'm going to try to make a red that we can't see here. As you can see before, I just added 1 color to the red, I added 2 colors, I added 3 colors, and every time it significantly changed the appearance of that red. Let's see what happens if I start with 125 violet red, and I'm going to add 123 middle purple pink. So I got a completely different color by mixing 125 and 123. There's some orange in this red, there's a lot of violet in this red. Let's try a different kind of yellow. I'm reaching into the pencil box to pull out a dull yellow. This one is called Naples Ochre. It's number 184. And if I didn't want such a bright yellow, or I wanted a little subtle shadow on my yellow, I might start with an ochre color. You can see that it's an orange yellow, not a green yellow, but it has a much duller look to it. I'll add a little bit of our 107 from the color wheel. With just 1 layer of 184 and 107, I've got a completely different yellow than I was making before. The same is true of every color mix, and it's worth trying lots of different colors. If you make a mistake, don't X it out or tear it out or write no. That color will show up sometime. So every color is just a color. Blues are kind of an interesting group to mix because we only have a very few blues in our coloring box. So let's try something that I didn't try here yet. Let's try a really dark blue. Our darkest blue is number 157, dark indigo. And when I want a dark color, I'll lay down a dark hue first because it's going to get me there a little bit quicker. I'll add another green blue, phthalo blue. And what I have is almost the color of denim blue jeans. You may not know that the original pigment of blue jeans was the plant indigo, which is a dark blue-green. So with just 157 and 110, I got a blue that I had not made before. One of the trickiest color combinations to make is violet. Violet is complicated because if any of the complement of violet comes into the mix, and the complement of violet is yellow, as we know, if any of it comes in on an orange-red, that little bit that added the orange dulls the violet immediately. So you can see in this first example, this lilac color had a violet blue and a violet red, and it came out to be a nice, clean, clear violet. When I changed only the red to orange red, you can see how dull that became. And when I chose a green blue, the blue with the least amount of violet in it, and an orange red, the red with the least amount of violet in it, I got a really dull color. Dull doesn't mean uninteresting, and dull doesn't mean useless. These colors show up in nature all the time. But mixing colors ahead of time and using the color wheel in this way will help us predict the results we'll get, so that when we're trying to paint that beautiful iris, we won't end up with a really dull color. I'm a botanical artist, so I mix a lot of greens. All of the greens on this page, all 15, were mixed only with blues and yellows. So you don't really need to rely on a green pencil to do the work for you. Most botanical artists go around town looking for the correct green pencil so that they can get the right green. But I think it's all right there in your pencil box. Most of these greens were mixed just with the 2 blues and the 2 yellows from our color wheel. In fact, the possibilities are endless because the degree of yellow and the degree of blue you add and the choices you make will give you lots of variations. Let's mix up a green so you can see what I mean. I'm going to try a little bit duller one this time. So I'm going to use the yellow with the least amount of green in it. This is my orange yellow, number 107. And I'm going to use a blue with very little green in it. That would be like this one, 140, ultramarine. It's more of a violet blue. This time I'll start with the blue. You can see I'm always holding the pencil in that same way, working the pencil like a brush stroke, and my pencil is sharp. I'm going to change things up a little by adding 2 layers of blue before I add any yellow. I have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to get, but you don't yet. So there's 2 layers of blue and 1 layer of yellow. I already have a green that I didn't have before, but let's change it up again. I'm going to go with 2 more layers of blue. You can see the color getting brighter and stronger without me ever pressing it into the paper. That was 107 and 140, and I used twice as much of the blue. You get the idea of how to mix colors randomly. As we go forward, we'll be mixing colors more intentionally to match exact leaves and exact plant material, any color that we really want to match. For now, I'll leave you with this, and I'm next going to show you a special technique called mixing and topping that'll let you get really nice, strong colors. One technique I've developed over the years, I call mixing and topping. It kind of helps to knit those base colors together and yet let them seep through the top color. Let me show you what I mean. First of all, let me talk about the colors that come in a set of pencils. We don't have any control over that. I'm a botanical illustrator, and these greens that came in my colored pencil set, except for one, are a little overwhelmingly bright. I'll show you what I mean. Here are the greens I'm more likely to use. They may look really dull to you now, but I'll tell you, they're more what you would find in nature. So it's interesting to know at most art supply stores and online, you can buy polychromos pencils individually. So if you're going to add a few pencils, I'd go with some of those natural greens. Mixing and topping is the process of creating a color from blue and yellow, say a green, and then choosing a pencil that will match or enhance that color. One layer of the green can knit it all together. I'll start with this really bright one. I used our green blue and green yellow, so it's a pretty bright green. And I'm going to knit it together with the green number 112 that is on our color wheel. I'll just do half and you can see what this looks like. Again, I'm holding the pencil pretty far out. I'm using a light touch and I'm not obliterating what's underneath. But that one last layer really brightens the mix. I'll make a quick note of what it is that I used, because again, I never want to forget. Let me show you with another pencil from our set what it would look like on a slightly duller color. So here I have our orange yellow with our green blue. I've made a green that is a slightly muted green by sticking with the blue with the most green, but adding the yellow with less. So when I top that with number 168, kind of a duller May green, I get a beautiful green that would be like the green we see in springtime as leaves are unfurling. I can also change the color of a green slightly by adding a contrasting green. I'm going to go back to this really bright one. If I had made that green on a subject I was drawing and it was just too much, I might pick one of my duller greens. I'll pick out one that, I'll pick the one from the pencil box from up here, 168. Let me show you on the other half of this mix what would happen if I topped it with a duller green. I can just tone it down. Can you see the difference? Really bright and a little bit more from nature. This is a great way to temper any color mix that you make. Let's take a look at some other colors we made. Let's look at the reds. When I've made a red that seems a little too violet, I might pick up a red that's a little more orange. I'll just cover half. You can see I could just change the color of that red by adding a little bit of orange red. This is 121, the orange red from the color wheel. It allows me to make small undulations and color change without a definite shadow. And also, it's a great way to correct a color that's gone a little bit wrong. When you're drawing with colored pencils, you'll often find that you need a light color, a light value to add to your mix. But most colored pencil companies don't make a lot of light colors. So let's figure out how to make our own. There are several ways you can do it that will apply in different situations. Let me show you what I mean. In this case, I used a violet red to get a nice clean pink. This time, I'm going to use our orange red. It's number 121. And let's see what we get from this one. So your first option with a very sharp pencil and a very light touch is to just draw more lightly, letting the white of the paper provide some white in your color mix. You can see that when I applied a little more pressure, I had a red. Now I have more of a peach color. Another option, still using our 121, would be to start with that very light application of color and then temper it with some white pencil. Now you may have found a white pencil in your colored pencil explorations before, and often artists use it pressing very hard to stir the color together. I'm going to do exactly the opposite. I'm going to use this just as lightly as I used my colored pencil, just to blend that color a little. So you can see, here's the side where I didn't use the white, and there's the side with the white. It intensified the color just a little, but smoothed it out. That's fine, but if I were drawing, say, a rose or something really smooth, I wouldn't be satisfied with that grainy look. So here's another alternative. We'll keep using 121 as our color throughout. I mixed that with white, so on my recipe card, as always, I'm going to write down the color I mixed with in order. The next time I start, I'm going to start with that white. I'll go to 121 and then we'll see what happens. So I'll make a mark so I know which color I'm going to. With a light touch and again a sharp pencil, I'm adding white. This is a little bit of an act of faith because I can't really see it on my paper. I just have a light coating of white, and that's going to give a nice smooth surface for me to add some red. Now you'll notice immediately that I'm getting a silkier application of color because I'm putting color over the white pencil. Can you see the difference? I sure can. If I wanted to grade this, I could now, I'll leave a little bit here, I could add another layer of white, which just smooths it out more. I'm not pressing harder. I'm just sliding a layer of white in between my layers of color. And with another gossamer layer of color, I have a little more of an intense peach. I'll cover that with white. And let me just work my way across this dot. No more pressure, but you'll see the color develop all the way across. This could come in handy if I were drawing, say, a tulip petal that started as a pale pink at one end and had a lot of color at the other. I could just lay down varying amounts of color and white and get a lovely tint, smooth as can be. Notice I'm ending with white. That just blends my color at the end. So you can see from a really pale tint to a stronger tint, all I did was add more layers. Another option that I have, using this same color of 121, my orange red, is to lay down a light layer of that color and then to use the blending pencil. To use the colorless blender, you need to apply just a little bit more pressure. I'm going to work this in that little elliptical scumble stroke. You remember that one. And you'll see that it'll blend the color in a little different way than the white pencil did. I'm adding a little bit of pressure. I'm at about a 3 pressure now. And it's moving the pencil color into the paper by melting it. I get a little different effect than when I added the white. It's less creamy, but it also isn't distorted. I could do the exact same thing I did with the white. I can add a little bit more of my pigment in and blend it again. Now here's a caution. We'll meet this technique. This is called burnishing, which just means adding pressure and friction to melt. We'll meet this again. When I've done this, I have crushed the paper tooth, so I really have no room left to work on this drawing. This will be one of the last things you do, not the first. If I'm at the beginning of the drawing, I'm going to use this technique of white, color, white, color, white. Now you'll see I got a few little crumbs on this, and I like a hake brush, which is a very soft Japanese ink brush for brushing away the colored pencil crumbs. If you leave them and drag your hand across them, you could actually draw them onto your work. So keep a little brush handy at all times. I want to show you one last thing about tints. We weren't using really strong colors or really saturated colors, but you can make a tint out of something even as dark as our color wheel violet. This is number 249. As it happens in our set of colored pencils, it's the only violet we have, so we're going to need to change that up a little. For your homework, create some more dots on your recipe cards, matching colors to maybe foods in your refrigerator or colors in your life with your own mixes. Be sure that you make a note of all the colors you use so you'll know exactly what to do next time. In our next lesson, you'll learn about surface textures in colored pencil and how to apply all those pencil strokes we learned, along with some new tools.